Welcome back to We Can Do It Women. I'm Deborah Morrison, and today we're tackling the elephant in the room when it comes to retirement planning. Yeah, healthcare costs. Here's a sobering statistic. The average couple retiring today will spend over $300,000 on healthcare throughout retirement. For women who live longer and often face higher medical costs, this number could be even higher. But here's what frustrates me. Too many women are so worried about healthcare costs that they're paralyzed. They're not enjoying their lives today because they're terrified about medical bills tomorrow. Well, that's no way to live. So today I'm going to give you a comprehensive strategy to protect your wealth from healthcare expenses without living in fear. We're going to cover Medicare optimization, long-term care planning, and how recent policy changes have specifically affected women over 60. But here's my philosophy. You should plan for healthcare costs, not surrender your life to them. Number one, Medicare enrollment mistakes that cost thousands. So let's start with Medicare, because the decisions you make during your initial enrollment can affect your costs for the rest of your life. The biggest mistake is missing your initial enrollment period, and you typically have a 7-month window around your 65th birthday in order to enroll. Well, if you miss that, you're going to pay, and you're going to pay premiums for life, higher ones. I had a client whose mom had delayed enrolling in Medicare Part B because she had employer insurance. And she finally enrolled 2 years later, but her premium was jacked up to $200 per month higher forever. She lived 20 years. That mistake cost her $48,000. Here's the Medicare Part breakdown. Part A is your hospital. You usually get this for free if you've worked for 10 plus years. Part B is your medical, your doctors. It's the monthly premium, currently about $174.70 for most people. Exceptions, of course, do apply. And Part C is a Medicare Advantage plan. It's an alternative to the original Medicare. I would just caution you about Part C. And Part D is your prescription drug coverage. And also that could involve longer or higher premiums for life if, in fact, you don't sign up in time. Now, Medigap insurance is a decision that you want to consider very, very strongly. It's crucial, especially for women. Medigap policies help cover what original Medicare doesn't pay. So here's what most people don't know. You have a guaranteed issue period when you first enroll in Medicare Part B. Yep. During this time, the insurance company cannot deny you coverage or charge you higher premiums based upon your health conditions. If you miss that window, however, you might be stuck with limited options or higher costs should you develop health issues. And there's the caution about that C part. Medicare Advantage versus original Medicare and Medigap. Well, this decision can save or cost you thousands. Medicare Advantage pros, often monthly lower premiums. It might include prescription and vision or dental coverage, and there are annual out-of-pocket maximums. The Medicare Advantage cons, limited provider networks. You need a referral for a specialist, and coverage can change annually. And you might have to prove medical viability to get it if you don't, if you develop some type of a medical impairment later. So the original Medicare and Medigap pros are, you see any doctor who accepts Medicare. There are predictable costs, stable coverage. Original Medicare and Medigap cons include, however, higher monthly premiums. Separate prescription drug coverage is needed. So this choice depends on your health, your travel patterns, your risk tolerance, how many prescription drugs you're taking. You get the picture. Now, number two, long-term care insurance. The question every woman must answer. And here's a stat that should get our attention. 75% of long-term care is provided to women by women. But who's planning for your care? The reality of long-term care costs are that the average cost of assisted living is $4,500 per month. The average cost of nursing home care, $8,000 to $12,000 a month. The average stay in long-term care facilities is 2 to 3 years for women. Now, these costs can devastate even well-planned retirement savings. So you have options. Option number one, you self-insure. You set aside $200,000 to $500,000 specifically for potential long-term care costs. The pros are you've got flexibility. The money stays in your estate. If it's not used, you can invest the money however you wish. The cons, it requires significant assets. And you got to invest those monies so that they're going to keep pace with inflation, because you know inflation is going to be present, especially in medical care costs. Option 2, you buy some traditional long-term care insurance. Well, the pros are it leverages your premium dollars, it's inflation protected, and you can buy this extra inflation rider. The cons, use it or lose it. The premiums can increase, and if you don't require long-term care, if we, dive bomb into our Cheerios, which is my choice, right? Then we pay those premiums and we're not going to get a quote unquote return. It might be the best option to not get a return on your long-term care insurance when you think of it. Option 3, hybrid life insurance and long-term care policies. The pros are the death benefit is paid if you don't need the long-term care. So that's a plus from the previous con I just mentioned. There are guaranteed premiums in these policies, but the cons are it's a higher initial cost. These are very complex products, a lot of built-in costs in that policy. So that requires some analysis. Option 4, the Medicaid spend down strategy, intentionally qualifying for Medicaid by spending down assets. Well, the pros are the government pays for your care. The cons are there are limited facility choices. There are really complex rules that you really gotta watch so that you don't run afoul. There's action protection strategies are needed, and that's going to involve an attorney and a whole bunch of costs around that. So my recommendation framework is if you have less than a couple $100,000 in assets, focus on Medicaid planning strategies, because you'll be able to spend down, right, to qualify. If you have 200,000 to $1 million, you might consider traditional long-term care insurance or a hybrid policy. If you have more than $1 million, maybe self-insurance becomes more viable. But insurance can still make sense for asset protection. If you're interested in generational wealth and transfer of wealth to another generation, you might have to buy that insurance policy so that the bulk of your estate is passed to your named beneficiary. But here's the gender factor. Women face unique long-term care challenges. We live longer, more years needing care typically. We're more likely to be single when care is needed. And we often exhaust our resources caring for our spouses first. So how current healthcare policies impact women is the recent and proposed policy changes are specifically affecting women over 60. Medicare drug prices. The negotiations started in 2026. Medicare is going to be able, presumably, to negotiate prices for certain prescription drugs. If that happens, this could significantly reduce your costs for medications treating conditions that disproportionately affect women: osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis. Expanded Medicare coverage. Recent expansions include mammography screenings without cost sharing. Wouldn't that be a delight? Certain preventative services for women, mental health parity improvements. Yeah, long overdue. The challenge of medical debt, of course, is that women over 60 are increasingly filing bankruptcy due to medical debt. This just breaks my heart. Unlike other debts, medical debt can be negotiated, however, and there are programs out there to help. Prescription drug costs, women typically take more prescription medications than men and live longer, meaning higher lifetime drug costs. The new Medicare prescription drug reforms will cap annual out-of-pocket costs at $2,000 starting in 2025. Reproductive health insurance, even after 60, some women need hormone replacement therapy or other reproductive health services. And policy changes continue to affect that coverage and the access to that. Number 4, health savings accounts, HSAs. This is the retirement secret. If you're still working after 60, health savings accounts might be the best retirement account you're not using. Listen up. HSA has a triple tax advantage. That would be 3. Deductible contributions, like a traditional IRA, reduces your taxable income. That's snappy. Tax-free growth, like an IRA, like a Roth IRA, not a traditional, a Roth IRA. And tax-free withdrawals if the withdrawals are for qualified medical expenses after age 65. Yeah, you can withdraw money for any purpose, just like a traditional IRA, but you will pay taxes if the funds are not paid directly and qualify as medical expenses. So medical expense withdrawals remain tax-free. And there's no required minimum distributions ever. You can continue to roll an HSA forward and forward and forward for women over 60, and it continues to compound tax-free. So if you're still working with high deductible health insurance, you want to maximize your HSA contributions, and it's on a calendar year. So right now, it is this just went up. There's a catch-up provision if you're 55 and older, and the 2024 figure was $4,300 for an individual, $8,550 for a family, plus $1,000 of catch-up, but it did increase just recently. You're going to pay your current medical expenses out of pocket as possible and let your HSA grow for future healthcare costs. Keep your receipts for future reimbursement. There's no time limit on this. You can withdraw now for expenses that you made and paid out a couple of years ago and might have slipped your mind. Here's an example. Sarah, age 62, maximizes her HSA for 3 years before she has Medicare eligibility. So she contributes $16,500 total, and that could grow to $50,000 by the time she needs long-term care. You see where I'm going with this, right? So now we can talk about strategies to reduce your healthcare costs. Let's talk about proactive strategies to reduce your healthcare expenses writ large. Prevention is the best investment. So regular preventative care, which is 100% covered by Medicare, make those appointments and see those doctors. Maintain a healthy weight and exercise routine. This will not get easier as we age, so let's start chipping away at regaining health that we might have lost or keeping our health, in fact, as we age. There requires an extra intentionality, right, to maintain our tones and our strength and our balance. Managing chronic conditions proactively. If you've got a chronic condition, you know that takes some intentionality, and you want to be ahead of that curve before it gets more severe. Mental health stress and care management. Many of us are caregiving other people. This takes a toll, and I want us to pay attention to our own mental health and levels of stress. Smart healthcare shopping. Let's look for generic prescription drugs when they're appropriate. Telehealth services for routine consults. Medical tourism for elective procedures. HSAs, health savings account, eligible expenses, alternative and complementary care. Many women find relief and cost savings through acupuncture for pain management. I do acupuncture. It's great. Massage therapy for chronic conditions. Nutritional counseling for disease prevention. Mindfulness and meditation for mental health. And we can negotiate medical bills oftentimes. We are wise to always ask for an itemized bill and look at it. There are like the strangest things that are thrown in there sideways. And we want to question any charges that seem incorrect. And we want to inquire about payment plans or charity care programs that might be available for us. You might consider hiring a medical billing advocate for large bills. And so you really want to devise this healthcare wealth protection action plan this month. Yeah. Review your Medicare options if you are approaching 65. Calculate the potential long-term care costs for your area because it differs. Research the long-term care insurance options. Maximize your HSA contributions if you're eligible. This quarter, you're going to schedule preventative health care appointments. You're going to review and organize all of your health insurance documents and create a healthcare emergency fund. Yes, you are. You're going to research the healthcare costs in areas where you might want to retire because you may not want to retire in your current location. And this whole year, you're going to make a long-term care insurance decision. You're going to create advanced directives and healthcare powers of attorney. These need to be written down now before they're needed. And you're going to consider geographic arbitrage, right? Moving to lower cost healthcare areas as you age. That may or may not be close to your children or your grandchildren. But remember, healthcare costs are the biggest wild card in retirement planning, bar none. But they're not unmanageable with proper planning. So the goal isn't to have enough money to pay for any possible medical scenario. It's to have a strategy that protects your wealth while ensuring you receive the care you need, because timely care is another preventative, right? It's a precautionary measure that I certainly suggest. Next Monday, we're going to dive into how politics affect your purse, understanding the policy changes that could impact your financial future. So subscribe to the channel, join our Facebook community, and share this video with any woman who needs to protect her wealth from healthcare costs. Until next week, remember, plan for healthcare costs, but don't let fear of them rob you of living fully today.